In this recording, we are going to look at creating a new layout and activity and associating that layout with an activity. And we're going to look at calling one activity from another. Now, I have a little bit of refactoring to do. You see here I have GPS of plant, description of a plant, and then search. But, well, the actual name of the activity is called search plants activity. It really should be a GPS activity, something like that. Luckily, this is pretty easy to change. What I can do is right click and choose refactor and choose rename. And let's call this, we'll just say GPS a plant activity. That's fine. And next. Okay. And finish. So this is actually going to be our GPS. This is actually going to be our GPS screen. I'm going to change that button to say select a plant or something like that. Okay, so we save and we come back here and we have search. I'm going to change that to select a plant. So I'm going to go to activity search plants. Okay, we'll give that a moment to come up. Okay, I paused the video for a moment because I knew it'd take a second. So to change the label text, I'm going to right click on the button, or the button text rather. I'm going to right click on the button. I'm going to choose edit text. And remember, what we want to do here is we want to say select a plant. So I'm going to say new string. And we'll give it just a moment here. I'll call the string LBL select a plant. And then the string title, I'll just say select a plant. So what we're going to do from this button is we're going to open the search screen. We're going to open the search screen. I go ahead and choose OK. So this screen is going to allow us to associate a GPS location with a plant. So the select a plant will open the search screen, and we'll make that happen, but we need to make a search screen first. And I choose OK. There are a couple other things we can do as well. We probably want to add a place here where we can put, there we go, select a plant. We want a place here where we can put latitude and longitude as well. Now, those are going to be read-only. And so for read-only, we don't want to use an edit text. We rather would like to use a text view. So what I'm going to do is grab this text view. Now, it's a little bit tricky because we already have things on the screen. So I'm going to drop this towards the bottom. And I'm going to choose Edit ID. This is the ID of the text view. Do this right away. If you don't do this right away, text view 3 is not going to make any sense at all. But if I say TXT latitude label, that makes a lot more sense. And I choose OK. Okay. Now I can right click on this and I can choose Edit Text. And we said latitude as I recall, right? So I'm going to say new string. And this is going to be the label that just says latitude. So we're going to say LBL latitude label. And we're just going to say latitude. OK. And I choose OK. And OK again. And with any luck, there we go. There's our latitude. Now, that's going to hold the latitude, but we actually need something that's going to hold the label called latitude. We actually need something that says the value of latitude as well. That's going to be read-only. So again, I'm going to drop to the right of TXT latitude label. I'm going to drop one more label, and I'm going to say edit ID. That's the first thing we want to do. LBL latitude value. So this is actually the numerical value that represents latitude. And I choose OK. Now, it says text view. That doesn't really say a lot. So I'm going to say edit text. And I'm going to make a new string that's just a blank string. And we're going to say blank. Okay, and we're going to literally leave it blank. Whoops. And I choose OK, which is going to be slightly offside here. Okay, and OK. And you see, you don't see the label now, but it is there. It's just blank, literally. Okay, one more text view. And actually two more text views. So I'm going to drag one more right underneath. Let's see, align left TXT latitude label below TXT latitude label. That's fine. I'm going to edit ID. We'll call this LBL longitude label. Okay. And choose OK. Right click, choose edit text. and we're going to say new string, and we'll call this LBL longitude label, and we will say string longitude, and we'll choose OK, and we'll let that refactor, and we'll go ahead and choose OK again, and there we go. Okay, once again, we're going to want the longitude value to be next to this. So I'm going to choose a text view, drop it to the right of LBL longitude label, and align bottom LBL longitude label. We'll go ahead and choose edit text, and we'll reuse that blank that we did before, and we choose OK. So now we have things we can program against. Now the tricky part is going to be I actually want to get that latitude and longitude and all of that stuff up above. So let's see if I can select it all nicely and squeeze it, okay, above text view 2. That would be ideal. Yeah, shoot. Now you see that just didn't do what I wanted it to do. Maybe if I select all this stuff. Okay, all that's selected. Now I'll try and move that below text view 1. Let's see if we can drop that right there. Well, that didn't give me what I wanted either. Okay, well, you know what? Maybe we'll just go ahead and leave latitude and longitude at the bottom. For now, that's fine. We can rearrange it. To be honest, sometimes it's easier to go back to the XML view and rearrange it there. But in any case, we now have a place for latitude and longitude. We have a description of the plant. That would be something like something I planted with my mother 3 years ago. You know, something like that that describes what the plant is. Now select a plant, we want that to go to our actual search screen. I made a lot of changes here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save all and commit this to GitHub because I want to keep this separate from the actual changes of making a new screen. So I'm going to right click on my application, and we'll give it a moment. Looks like it's a little bit slow right now. I'm going to choose share. I'm going to choose team. And then I'm going to choose commit. Okay, and there we go. Okay, now remember, that's just going to commit it locally. So what I actually need to do then, once I've committed, and yeah, we'll say that's okay. Is there anything else I need? I think we're good. I think we look pretty good there. So I'm going to say refactor and make the GPS a plant screen distinct. Okay, I'm going to choose commit. We're going to give this a moment. Even after I commit, there's still one more step I need to do. I've only committed this to my local repository. So what I'm going to do after I commit is I'm going to say team, and I'm going to say, where'd we go? Remote push. So I was looking for push. Team remote push. Okay, now I need to give it my GitHub URI, so I'm going to open a new browser window. Because I don't have that handy as luck would have it. With the browser now open. Okay, with the browser now open. Okay, we see my application here, and I'm going to, I've logged in, I'm going to come down, I'm going to grab this copy to clipboard, there we go. Okay, paste, Control V. Okay, my authentication. Okay, and of course my super secret password. And then I'm going to choose next. Cross my fingers, add all branches. Okay, looks pretty good. And next. And finish. Okay, and while that's going, once that's finished, I'm going to come back to my browser to make sure that it did indeed synchronize. Okay, pushed, looks good. And let's see, the last commit message I had on this project was remove the sum method and its parts. Let's refresh this, and let's see what we get now. Fingers crossed. It should update to the commit message I just, yes, look at that. Refactor and make the GPS plant screen distinct. Starting with that as a baseline is going to give us, that's going to give us a much better baseline to go from, because I kind of confused those concepts of GPS and search, and it's really important that we keep those separate, that we keep the GPS screen separate from the search screen. As you might have seen in the table of contents video, the search screen is a separate entity, but that entity can be called from the GPS screen. So now we're back. So now what we want to do is we want to make a new activity in a new layout. Let's start with the layout. I'm going to right click on the layout and I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say Android XML file, and I'm going to say let's see, we'll say relative layout. I kind of like the relative layout. Okay, and we're going to call this advanced search, and I'm going to choose next and finish. And what we see here is advanced search XML. It automatically appends the XML to the end. And I see something else. This layout for the GPS screen is called search plants. That's confusing because we have advanced search. I'm going to refactor this as well. Refactoring is really easy to do in Eclipse. So I right click, refactor, and I'm going to say rename, and let's call this activity GPS plants. Okay, because if I don't do that now, it's going to get really confusing. So as I mistakenly kind of confused two different concepts earlier. So activity GPS plants, that is our GPS. That is our GPS layout. Advanced search, this is our search layout. So what do we need in our search layout? Well, let's keep it simple right now. We'll just do one thing at a time. I'm going to grab a text view, drag and drop it. And again, a text view is a label. It's text that will not be edited. So I grab the text view. Okay, we'll line top. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say edit ID. Remember, that's always the first thing we want to do. LBL plant name. Okay, and we don't want to say genus, species, or common name. We just want to say name. We want this to be an open name that the user can choose any part of any name, genus, species, or common. So plant name, I'm going to right click, I'm going to choose edit text, and I'm going to say new string, and I'm going to say, we'll call it LBL plant name. What is this thing I keep filling in at the bottom, by the way? That's a unique identifier for this string. What's going to happen when I pull up this box is it puts all of these strings in a special file called strings.xml. So all of the text on our application that the user can see is in a file called strings.xml. And you see that file is called out here below, res values strings.xml. Now, the reason why we do that is internationalization, and this is very important. We want to put all of that visible text in one file so that if we wish to natively support other languages, all we have to do is translate that one file and make basically translated versions of that file. And so that's important because we have to remember that the more languages that we specify, the bigger potential audience we have. And the reason why that's important is you might find there's less competition in other languages than there is in English. There are all kinds of apps written in English. But if you natively support a different language, some of your competitors might not. That might open up a nice opportunity for you. Okay, so for the text then, the text goes up above. We're going to say here plant name. That'll be fine. And then we choose OK. And OK. And there we have plant name. Now underneath that I want an editable text, but the trick is I want it to be one of these autocompletes, and that will be handy. Autocomplete text, because as we start typing, it will make suggestions based on what we're typing. Always think very seriously about using autocomplete if you do have a free text field. So I take this autocomplete, align parent left true, below LBL plant name, that's fine. I'm going to right click and choose edit ID, and we're going to say ACT plant name, autocomplete plant name, and OK. Now it has text in it right now, autocomplete text view. That's really ugly. Let's not leave that in there. Let's switch that to our blank, like so, and there we go. So we end up with blank text. Underneath this, we can add a button. So align left and below. And we'll right click and choose edit ID. We'll say btn search plant. Okay, and OK. And then I'll right click and choose Edit Text. And we see we already have something called LBL Search. Let me choose that. Yeah, that looks great. So we'll just use it like that. Plant name and then a search button. And we're going to want to give this results as well. Let's just keep it like this for the moment. So I choose Save. Okay, now at this point, I've done a lot of changes. I want to make sure I haven't broken my app yet. So I'm going, yet, as if I'm inevitably going to break it. I have my emulator up. I'm just going to right click and run it and make sure it runs. So I right click, I choose debug, an Android application, and it should go ahead and reload on my emulator. We know that we haven't wired up these two screens yet. As a matter of fact, we haven't even made an activity for the search screen yet. I just want to make sure that it will at least deploy. So I'm going to go ahead and let that load. Meanwhile, under my source package, I currently have GPS a plant activity. What I'm going to do now is right click and I need to make a new activity. Now what's an activity? Well, remember we have our layout. Layout is an XML based definition of the widgets or the little things that are on our screen, but that just lays them out literally. It just puts them in a certain order. We also need an activity which knows how to react to button clicks and the like, and that's what I want to make here. First though, the emulator has loaded, so before we forget, I wanted to show that all of the changes that I made to our application are here. You see we have GPS of plant, description of the plant, we have some text that I was just typing in, and then we have our latitude and longitude. The label on the button is changed. So all of the changes have properly made it. We can still load the app. Okay, so on to our activity. This is what's going to handle button clicks and other things for the new search layout that we made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and choose New. It's at the very top, so it's just off the screen. I'm going to choose Class, and for the name I'm going to choose Advanced Search Activity. For the superclass, this is important. Choose Browse, and then type in, just leave this highlighted, type in Activity, okay, and choose the first option, like so. So we're saying Advanced Search Activity, the superclass is Android.app.activity, and then I'm going to choose Finish. Okay, now once we're here, we're going to learn a little bit about the Android lifecycle, but one thing that we know is that there's a method that gets called when this activity gets created. Okay, this is part of the Android lifecycle. There's a method that gets called when this activity gets created, and that's a good place to do any initialization, like associating a layout with our activity. Okay, this special method is called onCreate. Now I could type out that entire method signature, which is what I need to get the whole method signature. But why bother? Let's let Eclipse do some of the work for us. Eclipse happens to know this is a special method, so it's given us some shortcuts to make our life easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type, now notice where I am, I'm within the class definition, I'm within the open and closed curly. What I'm going to do is type on CR with a capital C, we'll leave it like that, and I'm going to hold Control and hit space. And notice the first option that comes up is on Create. That's exactly what we want. So click on that. Okay, and you see it gives us all of this stuff. We could have typed that by hand, but if we just type on CR, hold Control and hit space, Eclipse will offer to do some work for us and create that method signature for us, which is great. That's exactly what we need. Okay. Now, the next part I need to do then is I need to associate the layout with this activity. Okay, that is something called set content view. So I'm going to type again. I could type the whole thing, or I could just say set C, hold Control and hit space, and let Eclipse figure it out for me. Let's let Eclipse do the work. Set content view. That very first option is exactly what we want, and I choose Enter. Now it needs to know which layout to associate with this activity, and as luck would have it, Eclipse has created what's called a constant. This constant refers to that layout. Okay, so to get that constant, I simply need to type R, dot layout dot take a look, advanced search. R dot layout dot advanced search, that will associate the two together, and then I save. Okay, so R dot layout dot advanced search. So again, let Eclipse do the work. On CR control space will create this onCreate method. Set C control space, choose the first option. That will associate this button, select a plant. We want to have it actually open up our new advanced search screen. Okay, so when we click this button, select a plant, we want it to open up our new screen. And for that, we need an explicit intent. We also need to remember what happens when we click this button. And as luck would have it, I have a debugger attached. So when I click this button, it will open up in the debugger, and we'll see that it's calling the method search clicked. Okay, it's calling the method search clicked. I'll go ahead and play through this. So here's what we need to do to open up, this, we just had some dummy logic in there before. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And again, this isn't our actual GPS screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, okay? And I'm going to show you what we need to do to go from one screen to another. Let me go back to Java View, okay? And I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to choose delete, okay? Now what we need to do is we need to create an explicit intent. This is where we're explicitly saying what we want to do. Okay. 1 second, just to make sure I'm on screen here. Okay, so create an explicit intent. An intent means we want to go from one activity to another, and they come in two different flavors, explicit and implicit. This is an explicit intent because we're explicitly saying, I want to go from the GPS a plant screen to the search screen. So I'll say intent, and then we'll say search intent equals new intent. Open paren will automatically add a closed paren, and then I'm going to say the name of this advanced search activity that I want to go to. Okay, I'm going to say, see over there, advanced search activity. That's the class I just made. I'm going to say new intent, advanced search activity dot class. We have to put in dot class at the end, just like so. Okay, intent is giving us a red line because we don't know what it is. So I'm going to hold Control-Shift-O, and that will save that. Okay, it looks like I missed a parameter. I need to say this comma advanced search activity. There we go. That's a lot better. So a little bit of tricky syntax there. Let me expand so we can see the whole line. But to go from the GPS activity where I am now to the advanced search activity, I need construction like this. Now for your projects, let me tell you what it will look like. Start with the word intent with a capital I. This thing in the middle, you can name it whatever you want. Then we have an equal sign. Then we have new intent. Okay. Then an open paren, and then the keyword this and a comma. You're usually going to want that. So all of this will be the same on your project. This will be the same. What will be different is you can choose whatever name you want for this. Okay. And then this is the name of the activity that you want to open. And remember that activity, if I click on it now, remember when we open that activity, this onCreate method is going to be called, and it's going to render this activity with the layout that we punched in right here. So we're just telling one activity to go open another activity. The syntax is a little bit goofy. Intent search intent equals new intent. But that's what we want to do. Okay, one more step. We need to say start the activity, and we'll say start activity. And then we put in this word, which I said I called mine search intent. You can call yours something else if you want. And terminate that line with a semicolon, and then save. Okay, I'm going to disconnect from the debugger. There is one more thing we need to do. One minor thing we need to do, and then we'll try it out. Okay? What we need to do is to open this advanced search activity, we have to register it in the manifest. So I'm going to click on Android Manifest, and I'm going to choose, I think we're good here, Manifest Extras. I'm going to choose Add, And no, that's not what I want actually. I'm going to choose application. Okay. And I'm going to scroll down application nodes. So again, where did I go? Android Manifest, application, and then application nodes. I'm going to choose add, and I'm going to choose activity. Okay. Now this is a little hard to see. I keep losing my screen. I want to make sure I'm recording this for you. It's a little hard to see here. This is a good place to do a Control M. Okay. Now with Control M, we can see everything on the big screen. I'm going to resize this a little bit. Okay, name. This is the important part. Choose browse. Now remember that activity name that we made? We called it advanced search activity. That's good. Choose that, choose OK. And then finally, choose save. Okay. And I'm going to Control M again. If everything works right now, we should be able to now get from our GPS a plant screen to the search screen, okay, using an explicit intent. So I'm going to right click, choose Run As, or actually we'll choose Debug As, Android Application. Now this might take a moment to load, so I might pause the recording if it does take a moment, or maybe it won't. But typically what will happen is we already have the program running. What we're going to do is it will basically refresh the screen and say it's attaching the debugger, and we'll watch what happens from there. Okay, so it's refreshing the screen. Again, I'll give it just a few minutes. I'll go ahead and pause the recording and bring it back up as soon as we get our user interface back. Okay, and it's come up now. So I'm going to choose select a plant, and with any luck, we're going to go to our search screen. Fingers crossed. Okay, looks like it's refreshing, and sure enough, we're at our search screen. Very simple so far, but it's good enough to see what's going on. I'm going to go back, and because I am in the debugger, it's worth stepping through this in a few breakpoints, because I know we've made a lot of changes and feels a little bit scattered. First of all, public void search clicked. This is the method that we've always had before. I've just changed it around so that now it has some logic to jump to another screen. I'm going to set a little breakpoint there. Advanced search activity. We know this doesn't really do anything yet, but I'm going to set a breakpoint on the onCreate method. And now I'm going to come back to GPS a plant and click the Select a Plant button again. Let's watch very carefully what happens. It takes me into debug menu. And again, debugger is your best friend. Okay. What we see it's doing is it's creating a new explicit intent. It's creating a new explicit intent. Okay, so I'm going to step over, which means execute this line and go to the next. And it takes me to start activity. Now if I go back and look at my emulator, the button is still pressed. The UI is locked because it's currently working in the UI thread. So we go to start activity. There's nothing else after this line, so I'm going to go ahead and choose play. What's going to happen then is we can watch as our GPS a plant screen goes away, and right now it's going to try to render the advanced search screen. Now, we're in the advanced search screen, the advanced search activity, and there's not much logic here, but take a look. The screen won't paint, it won't render, until it steps through this onCreate. So what we're doing here is we're saying super.onCreate. We don't know what that means yet. Eclipse gave it to us. Let's go ahead and just leave it in there until we figure out what it means. I'm going to step over this and now set content view. It's saying, okay, you've rendered this activity using an intent. Now which layout do I wish to use? I want to use the layout called advanced search. So let's go ahead and hit play, and as soon as we do, we're going to bring back up this screen and we'll see that our search screen should render, and there we go. Okay, so in this lesson we've looked at creating a new layout. Well, first we did some refactoring. Then we looked at creating a new layout. We went to the res layout folder and we created this advanced search layout. Okay, we also realized that when we create strings, they go into a values, oops, I clicked on the wrong one, go into a values strings.xml file where we basically have names that correspond with values, and we can internationalize this. In other words, we can translate this for different languages very easily. Okay. We also saw that we made a blank attribute, a blank label that we used to kind of blank out fields where we didn't want any text. We also remember that when we create any kind of UI widget, the first thing we want to do is choose Edit ID and give it an ID that we are going to remember. Okay. We learned that advanced search activity. We learned that onCreate is the first method that will be called, and that's a magic method. It's so magic that Eclipse already knows about it. So to create one, we just need to type onC and hold Control and hit space, and then choose onCreate. We know that setContentView is a magic method call. Eclipse knows about that as well. So we just have to type setC, hold Control, hit space, and then we have to provide it for a layout constant, which in this case we chose r.layout.advancedSearch. This constant is made for us by the Android system, and it's usually r.layout, and then the last word is the name of the layout file without XML. We also saw that if we want to call one activity from another, we have to use a kind of goofy syntax. Intent, and then some name that we make up, equals new intent, the word this and a comma in parentheses, and then the name of the class we want to call, close parenthesis, close semicolon, and then we're going to call startActivity. Okay, we're going to call startActivity. We also know if we want to call an activity, we need to register it in the Android manifest by clicking Android manifest, then click application, then choose add. Choose add. If you get something that looks like this with intent filter and metadata, click the upper arrow here. Then activity, and then we select the activity on the down on the right side. So learn quite a bit, quite a few good quiz question suggestions to pull out of that. Right now we're at the 32-minute mark. The next thing I want to show is how we can actually get some search results, and then we can return those results from screen to screen to screen. I also want to show how we can pass what's called a bundle from one activity to another. But 32 minutes is pretty long for one video. Let me go ahead and stop this now, and we'll start with a new video where we talk about bundles. Thank you.